The unexamined life is not worth living. Socrates whispered that truth 2,400 years ago, and tonight, we're about to examine everything. Before we begin this journey together, tell me, where are you tuning in from? And what time is it for you? Drop your location in the comments. I'd love to know where these ancient whispers are reaching. Wherever you are, whatever weighs on your mind tonight, you found something rare. This video is divided into 12 chapters, each filled with timeless philosophical lessons. From the Stoic halls of Marcus Aurelius to the existential depths of Camus, from the flowing wisdom of Lao Tzu to the psychological insights of Jung, we're going to walk through humanity's deepest truths together. Some will challenge you, some will comfort you, and some will whisper exactly what your soul has been trying to tell you all along. Let's begin. Chapter 1. The Art of Inner Stillness. Within you, there is a quiet place that nothing external can disturb. Lesson 1. The weight of control. There's a certain peace that arrives when you finally stop trying to control everything. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus taught that most of our suffering doesn't come from the world itself. It comes from the illusion that we can bend the world to our will. You cannot control the weather. You cannot control how others treat you. You cannot even control the course of fortune that drifts through your life like the wind. But you can control how you meet it, how you think, how you act, how you interpret what happens. Imagine standing in a storm. The wind howls, the rain falls heavy, and you cannot stop it. But you can choose how to stand, whether to curse the sky or simply let the rain fall upon your face without resistance. That is the essence of Stoic freedom, not the power to change the world, but the strength to remain unshaken within it. Epictetus once said, "Some things are up to us, and some are not." It sounds simple, but it's a boundary few ever learn to honor. The moment you draw that line, the moment you recognize what belongs to you and what doesn't, life becomes lighter. Because peace doesn't begin when things go right. It begins when you stop demanding they must. There's power in surrender, not the weak kind that gives up, but the wise kind that lets go. To carry only what is yours to carry, and to release what was never yours to begin with. This is how peace begins where control ends. Lesson 2. The Impermanence of Pain. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher-emperor, wrote countless reminders to himself in his journal that every emotion, no matter how powerful, is temporary. He knew that pain, like the changing of seasons, always moves on. You've felt heartbreak before, haven't you? The kind that felt unbearable, as if life itself had collapsed into shadow. But months later, that pain became a memory. It softened, faded, transformed. Emotions are storms, intense, consuming, but never permanent. They rise, peak, and pass. What makes them unbearable is not their existence, but our resistance to them. When sadness appears, we fight it. When anger arises, we feed it. When fear whispers, we run. But if you stop, if you simply breathe and watch the storm unfold, something magical happens. You realize that no emotion can stay forever. Marcus wrote, "Pain is neither unbearable nor unending, if you remember its limits and do not exaggerate it in your imagination." He was not dismissing pain. He was placing it in perspective. You've survived every difficult day you've ever had, every loss, every failure, every ache, and yet here you are, breathing. That means the storm always passes. Sometimes, it helps to picture emotions as clouds drifting across the mind's sky. You don't chase them, you don't push them away, you let them move at their own pace. The sky never fights the clouds. It simply remains, vast and unchanged beneath their passing forms. So when pain arrives, remind yourself gently, this too will pass. Not because you wish it to, but because it must. And when it does, you'll see, it left something behind. Strength, understanding, depth. Every storm refines the sky it passes through. Lesson 4. The calm between reactions. Imagine someone says something cruel to you. Instantly, your body tightens, your mind races, your ego ignites. You want to defend yourself, to react, to strike back. But what if, in that single instant you paused? That space, that small, fragile gap between what happens and how you respond. is where your freedom lives. Viktor Frankl, though not a Stoic himself, carried their wisdom in his heart. He said, "Between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom." The Stoics understood this deeply. They knew that the world doesn't disturb us, our judgments do. If you can master the pause, you can master yourself. Picture your emotions like waves crashing upon the shore. The untrained mind reacts to every wave, pulled, tossed, swept away. But the wise mind sits upon the sand, observing the rhythm. The waves come and go, but the observer remains still. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." That realization is the beginning of peace. When something upsets you, don't rush to fix it. Don't rush to fight it. Just breathe. Let the first wave pass. In that silence, you'll find clarity, and with clarity, wisdom. Most suffering doesn't come from what happens, but from the reaction that follows. The Stoic trains the mind like a muscle, not to be unfeeling, but to remain steady. Think of it this way. When you throw a rock into still water, ripples appear. But if you wait long enough, the surface returns to calm. That's the nature of the mind, too. It always returns to stillness if you don't keep disturbing it. This practice isn't easy. It takes repetition. You'll fail. You'll react. You'll lose your center. But with each return to stillness, you grow stronger. Every pause is a victory, a quiet rebellion against chaos. So the next time something shakes you, remember, you are not the wave. You are the ocean beneath it, vast, deep, untroubled. Lesson 5. The serenity of acceptance. When you stop resisting life, life begins to flow through you. There is a quiet strength in surrender, not the kind that gives up, but the kind that lets go. Most of us move through life fighting what is. We fight the rain instead of feeling it. We fight time instead of moving with it. We fight disappointment, aging, endings, as if resistance could ever change their nature. But the Stoics taught that peace begins the moment resistance ends. Epictetus said, "Do not seek for things to happen the way you want them to. Wish them to happen as they do happen, and your life will flow smoothly." Acceptance isn't passivity. It's wisdom. It's recognizing that you are a small part of something vast, something indifferent to your preferences, and yet beautifully orchestrated in its own way. When you stop wrestling life, something miraculous happens. You begin to move with it. Like a river carrying a leaf gently downstream, existence begins to flow through you instead of against you. Acceptance is not agreeing with everything. It's seeing clearly, seeing reality without distortion or judgment. If someone betrays you, it hurts. But what multiplies the pain is the thought that it shouldn't have happened. If a dream fails, it stings. But what makes it unbearable is clinging to how it was supposed to be. To accept is to breathe and say, "This too belongs." Marcus Aurelius called it the art of loving one's fate. To look at the events of your life, pleasant or painful, and whisper, amor fati, "I love my fate." Because everything that has ever happened, every loss, every heartbreak, every silence, has shaped the person you are right now, listening in the stillness of this moment. And that, in itself, is reason enough to be at peace. Lesson 6. The discipline of perspective. How changing your lens transforms your entire world. Two people can live the same day. One calls it miserable, the other calls it meaningful. The difference is not in the day itself, but in the lens through which they see it. Perspective is a quiet superpower. It doesn't change the facts of your life, but it changes your experience of them completely. The Stoics knew this well. They practiced zooming out, stepping back from the immediacy of emotion to see the bigger picture. Marcus Aurelius would often imagine himself rising above the earth, looking down upon cities, people, and events as if they were tiny moments in a vast flow of time. From up there, everything becomes smaller. The insults, the worries, the chaos of daily life. The world expands, and suddenly, what felt heavy becomes light. It's easy to be consumed by the small things, by traffic, deadlines, arguments, or the endless noise of the modern world. But perspective reminds you that you are just one consciousness on one small planet, spinning through a boundless cosmos. That thought isn't meant to make you feel insignificant. It's meant to free you. Because when you see how small your troubles truly are in the scale of existence, you stop giving them the power to steal your peace. Epictetus said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." That reaction is born from perspective, the ability to pause and ask, how else could I see this? What might this be teaching me? Perspective doesn't remove pain, but it gives it context. It allows you to step out of the storm and observe the rain instead of drowning in it. And in that subtle shift, from reaction to observation, the world itself transforms. Lesson 7. The silent fortress within. True strength is not in power, but in unshakable calm. The Stoics often spoke of an inner citadel, a fortress within the soul that no chaos can penetrate. Marcus Aurelius wrote about it often in his Meditations, that inside every person exists a sanctuary, untouched by the noise of the world. You can lose your possessions, your reputation, your relationships, even your health, but this inner calm cannot be taken unless you surrender it. Think of it like a candle burning inside a glass lantern. The winds of life may blow fiercely, but the flame remains steady, protected by the stillness of its enclosure. That enclosure is your mind. It's the space where peace lives, quiet, unbothered, and complete in itself. True strength is not in domination, nor in appearing unbreakable. It's in the quiet person who walks through storms with a steady gaze and a soft heart. It's in the one who doesn't need to prove anything, because their calm is rooted deep beneath circumstance. Seneca said, "No man is more unhappy than he who never faces adversity, for he is not permitted to prove himself." The Stoic fortress is built not by avoiding hardship, but by meeting it again and again, until peace becomes muscle memory. Each time you are tested and remain calm, the walls grow stronger. Each time you are provoked but choose silence, the foundation deepens. Eventually, you become the calm in the storm, not because life is easy, but because you've learned that no storm lasts forever and no storm defines you. Inside you is a quiet fortress. You don't need to build it. Only remember it's there. Lesson 8. The daily death. Why Stoics practiced imagining death to deepen appreciation for life. The Stoics spoke often of memento mori. Remember that you will die. To most, that sounds grim. But to the Stoic, it was liberation. Marcus Aurelius began his mornings reminding himself that he was mortal, that this day, this sunrise, this breath might be his last. Not to breed fear, but gratitude. Because when you truly remember that you will die, you stop wasting time pretending you'll live forever. You stop delaying love. You stop postponing joy. You stop arguing about things that will never matter when the final moment arrives. The awareness of death pulls you into the present with astonishing clarity. Suddenly, the small becomes sacred, the way sunlight hits the wall, the laughter of a stranger, the warmth of tea in your hands. Seneca wrote, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it." He believed that by contemplating death daily, we learn to live intentionally, not in haste, but with reverence. The Stoic does not fear death because he has practiced it in small ways every day, by letting go, by releasing attachment, by allowing moments to end gracefully. In truth, every night we die a little. We close our eyes, surrender control, and drift into the unknown. And every morning, we are reborn. To meditate on death is not to darken life. It is to illuminate it. Because when you hold mortality in your mind, trivial things fall away, and only what's real remains. And so, the Stoic whispers before sleep, "If I never wake again, let this day have been enough." And once you've made peace with what you cannot control, a quieter question whispers, "What does it mean to truly exist?" Chapter 2. The Mystery of Existence. To exist is to stand face to face with nothingness and still choose meaning. Lesson 9. The Burden of Freedom. Every choice carves your destiny. Jean-Paul Sartre. Freedom sounds beautiful until you realize its true weight. Sartre called it the burden of freedom, Because to be free is to be responsible, not just for what happens to you, but for who you become. You stand each day before an infinite field of possibilities. Every path, every decision, every hesitation, it all shapes the person you are becoming. There's no script, no divine blueprint, no predetermined map. Only your choices and the quiet consequences that follow them. To be free means there's no one else to blame. Not fate, not luck, not even circumstance. The moment you see that clearly, freedom stops feeling like liberation and begins to feel like weight. Because now, you realize, if your life feels empty, it's not the universe that failed you. It's you who hasn't yet written your meaning into it. Sartre believed that existence precedes essence. You are not born with a fixed nature, a defined role, or a permanent identity. You exist first, and only then, through your actions, do you create who you are. Every decision you make, even the smallest one, is a declaration of identity. To delay choice is still to choose, to let life happen to you rather than through you. And that's where the burden lies, in knowing you can't escape freedom. Even refusal is a form of decision. Even silence shapes the path. The challenge, then, isn't to seek freedom. It's to carry it with awareness, and to shape it into something worthy of the life you're given. Freedom is not the absence of limits, but the presence of responsibility. Lesson 10. The search for meaning. Meaning isn't found, it's created through living. Viktor Frankl. In the cold silence of a concentration camp, surrounded by death and despair, Viktor Frankl discovered something profound, that even when everything is taken from you, one thing remains: the freedom to choose your attitude toward your circumstances. Meaning, he realized, is not given to you by the world. It's something you create, moment by moment, through how you respond to life. Suffering, then, is not meaningless. It's the raw material from which meaning is forged. Frankl saw that those who survived the camps weren't necessarily the strongest or healthiest. They were the ones who still had a reason to live. A person who can find purpose, even in pain, cannot be destroyed by it. The world does not hand you a script for why you're here. It only gives you blank pages, and it's your task to write on them. Some find meaning in love, others in service, others in creation or discovery. But the essence remains the same. Meaning emerges not from asking, why me, but what can I make of this? In the quiet of your own life, this truth holds just as deeply. You don't have to find meaning like a lost treasure. You build it, through choices, through relationships, through small acts of courage that affirm your existence against the void. Life's question is not, what is the meaning of life, but how will you give life meaning? Lesson 11. The courage to be. Existence is absurd, yet courage lies in embracing it. Albert Camus. Camus once wrote that the only real philosophical question is whether life is worth living. He saw existence as inherently absurd, a universe without inherent purpose, paired with the human mind that desperately seeks one. We crave order, yet we live in chaos. We demand justice, yet the world remains indifferent. But Camus didn't see this as despair. He saw it as liberation. Because once you accept that the universe owes you nothing, no meaning, no fairness, no grand design, you become free to create your own reason to live. To live courageously, then, is not to escape absurdity, but to dance with it. To wake up each morning knowing that life has no guaranteed purpose, and still choose to engage with it fully, passionately, sincerely. This is the courage to be, to face the silence of the stars and still say, yes. Camus called this the revolt, the rebellion against meaninglessness by living vividly despite it. It is Sisyphus, pushing his rock up the hill again and again, not because he must, but because he chooses to. And perhaps that's where true peace begins, not in conquering absurdity, but in accepting it as part of what makes existence beautiful. Meaning doesn't need to be eternal. It only needs to be real in this moment. The absurd man lives without appeal, but never without wonder. Lesson 12. The weight of authenticity. You are most free when you stop pretending. In a world built on masks, authenticity is rebellion. We spend our lives trying to be liked, admired, accepted, shaping our personalities like clay to fit into molds that were never ours to begin with. But every compromise of your truth is a quiet betrayal. Sartre spoke of bad faith, the act of deceiving yourself to escape the anxiety of freedom. It's pretending that you have no choice, that life just happens to you. It's playing a role, because being yourself feels too uncertain. But authenticity demands something radical, to face your freedom head-on, and to live according to your own values, not the expectations of others. It's not arrogance. It's honesty. It's saying, I will no longer act out of fear of rejection, but out of fidelity to what I truly am. The world often rewards conformity. It makes rebellion seem dangerous, and silence seem safe. But silence costs you yourself. And when you lose that, no amount of approval can fill the emptiness left behind. To be authentic is to live naked before life itself, to stand without excuses, without the armor of social masks. It's not easy. It means letting go of the comfort of pretending. But it also means stepping into a freedom that is raw, luminous, and entirely yours. And that freedom is not found by becoming someone new. It's found by remembering who you were before the world told you who to be. The most radical act in an inauthentic world is to live truthfully. Lesson 13. The void within. Even emptiness has texture. It's the space where meaning can grow. There comes a moment when everything feels hollow, when the world, once full of color and motion, becomes strangely distant, like watching your life through a pane of glass. This is the void, not the darkness outside of you, but the quiet emptiness within. The space where meaning once lived, now stripped bare. Most people run from it. They fill it with noise, work, relationships, distractions, anything to avoid that silent question echoing from within. What am I doing all this for? But the void isn't your enemy. It's your teacher. Emptiness isn't the absence of meaning. It's the soil from which meaning grows. Just as a seed requires darkness to sprout, so too must the soul experience nothingness before it learns how to create. When you sit with the void, when you stop resisting that ache of uncertainty, something subtle begins to shift. You start to realize that meaning was never something you found out there. It was something you had to build in here. The void is the mirror of your freedom. It shows you that nothing is guaranteed, and therefore, everything is possible. It strips away the illusions of purpose given by others, so you can discover the quiet hum of your own existence. So don't run from emptiness. Rest within it. Listen to its silence. It's not a dead space. It's a canvas waiting for your brushstroke. In the end, it's not the void that consumes you. It's your refusal to create within it. Even nothingness has form when seen with awakened eyes. Lesson 14. The mirror of existence. Others reflect us back to ourselves. Heidegger. You are never entirely alone, not even when you're by yourself. The world is a hall of mirrors, and in each reflection, you meet fragments of who you are. Martin Heidegger believed that our very existence is shaped through being with others. We discover ourselves not in isolation, but through encounter. Every person you meet becomes a mirror, reflecting back your fears, your desires, your insecurities, and your light. When someone praises you, they reveal what you value. When someone criticizes you, they uncover where you still seek validation. The people you love show you what you long for. The people you resent reveal what you suppress. This reflection is not always gentle. Sometimes it's harsh, uncomfortable, raw, but it's necessary. Without others, you'd never see yourself clearly. You'd remain invisible, even to yourself. The philosopher Emmanuel Levinas took it further. He said that the face of the other calls you into responsibility. To see another human being is to recognize something sacred, their pain, their freedom, their existence beyond your control. In that recognition, you awaken to the truth that you are not the center of the universe. You are a thread in its tapestry. And yet, paradoxically, that realization deepens your individuality. Because to understand yourself through others isn't to lose yourself, it's to find yourself more honestly. We do not exist apart from others. We exist through them. Lesson 15. The dance with absurdity. How laughter softens the edges of existential pain. Camus once wrote that to live is to revolt against the absurd. But not every revolt must be serious. Sometimes, the bravest act is to laugh in the face of life's contradictions. There's a strange wisdom in humor, the kind that doesn't mock existence, but embraces it. When you laugh, truly laugh, you momentarily transcend the heaviness of meaning. You step outside your worries, your roles, your search for order, and glimpse the absurdity of it all. Think of it. You're a conscious being, spinning on a tiny planet, clinging to routines and stories, chasing dreams that vanish with time. And yet, here you are, feeling, breathing, hoping. What else can you do but smile? This is not denial. It's acceptance, the kind that turns suffering into art. Laughter doesn't erase pain, it makes it bearable. It's the soul saying, even if this world makes no sense, I will dance in it anyway. Nietzsche called it the laughter of the heights, a divine humor born from clarity, not ignorance. To laugh at the absurd is to reclaim your power from it. It means you've stopped taking your pain as proof of cosmic injustice and started seeing it as part of the strange, fleeting beauty of being alive. So when life feels too heavy, let yourself laugh. Let it echo through the absurd silence of the universe. Because laughter, in the end, is a kind of rebellion too, a soft one, but no less profound. Sometimes, wisdom sounds like laughter echoing in the void. Lesson 16. The choice to continue. Each sunrise is a quiet rebellion against the void. Every morning, the sun rises, indifferent, patient, constant. And yet, every time it does, it carries a whisper, you're still here. For those who wrestle with the absurd, continuation itself is an act of courage. To wake, to breathe, to move forward, it's not a trivial habit. It's a declaration, a refusal to surrender to the silence that waits beneath meaning. Camus called it the choice to continue. When confronted by the absurdity of life, we are given only two responses, despair or defiance. And to keep living, despite knowing the futility, is the purest form of defiance there is. You may not always have a grand purpose. You may not always feel joy, but you can always choose to take the next step, to drink the morning light, to write one more line, to speak one gentle word to someone who needs it. That's meaning enough for today. Existentialism teaches that life is not a riddle to be solved, but a path to be walked. The meaning of the journey doesn't appear before you begin. It unfolds because you begin. So, when the night feels endless and the weight of freedom grows heavy, remember this. Continuing is not weakness. It is the quietest, strongest form of rebellion. To live is to say yes again and again, even when nothing answers back. Chapter 3. The Nature of Reality. Reality is not what we see, but the mystery behind seeing. Lesson 17. The Illusion of Separation. Everything that appears divided is secretly connected. Heraclitus once said, "From all things one, and from one all things." He saw the world not as a collection of separate parts, but as an eternal flow, a river that never stops moving, yet is always one river. When you look at the world, your eyes show you boundaries. This and that, you and me, light and shadow. But beneath those boundaries, everything breathes the same rhythm. Every heartbeat echoes from the same silence. Every leaf, every star, every mind is a pattern in the same vast tapestry. Separation is an illusion that the mind constructs to make sense of the infinite. It labels, categorizes, divides, not because the world is divided, but because consciousness needs contrast to perceive. But in truth, there is no real border between your breath and the air, between your body and the earth, between thought and universe. The philosopher Spinoza described this beautifully, that everything is one substance, one divine reality, expressing itself in infinite forms. You are not a wave apart from the ocean. You are the ocean, momentarily shaped into a wave. This illusion of separateness is the root of fear, conflict, and loneliness. Because the moment you forget that everything is part of you, you start defending yourself from what you think is not you. But the truth is, there is nothing outside of you. The other is simply another face of the same whole. When you begin to see the unity beneath the surface, even pain transforms. The suffering of one is no longer distant. It's your own heart aching in another form. Compassion stops being moral duty and becomes recognition, seeing yourself in all things. And in that realization, the world softens. You no longer feel like a stranger wandering through chaos. You realize you have always been home. To see unity in all. Lesson 18. The dream of the mind. The world is not merely observed, it is perceived. Berkeley. The philosopher George Berkeley once claimed, "To be is to be perceived." It was his way of saying that reality, as you know it, doesn't exist independently of the mind that perceives it. The table before you, the trees outside, the stars above, all of them exist not as raw matter, but as perceptions woven into consciousness. The mind doesn't simply look at reality. It creates the lens through which reality appears. Your senses gather fragments of information, but it's the mind that paints the world into something coherent. The color red, the warmth of sunlight, the sound of your name, all are interpretations, not objective truths. This doesn't mean the world is false, only that your experience of it is a dream your consciousness continuously constructs. Think of how vividly you dream at night. The feelings, the people, the landscapes. They feel real, until you awaken and realize they were projections of the mind. Who is to say waking life is entirely different? Modern physics whispers something similar, that at its deepest level, reality is not solid at all, but a field of probabilities, energies, and invisible patterns. Matter, when examined closely enough, dissolves into vibrations, possibilities, much like thoughts. Berkeley wasn't denying existence. He was pointing towards something subtler, that the foundation of reality is not physical substance, but perception itself. The observer and the observed are entangled. The world you see depends on how you see it, on the filters of memory, emotion, and expectation. So when you question reality, you're not denying the world. You're awakening to the realization that you are its co-creator. Your perception is not passive. It's an act of cosmic participation. And perhaps, when you finally understand that, you begin to see that consciousness isn't trapped within your skull. It's the very canvas upon which the universe paints itself. The dreamer and the dream have never been two. Lesson 19. The layers of reality. There's more behind the curtain of matter than the senses reveal. What you see, hear, and touch, it's only the outermost skin of reality. Beneath it lies a depth that the senses can't grasp. Plato described this in his allegory of the cave. People chained in darkness, mistaking shadows on a wall for truth. Only when one of them steps beyond the cave does he see the light that creates those shadows, the deeper structure of being. We are still in that cave. Our eyes show us forms, our minds build names, but we rarely see the forces moving beneath them. Behind every object lies energy, behind every event lies intention, behind every motion lies stillness. Metaphysics invites you to peer behind a curtain, to ask what lies beneath appearance. What is matter when it dissolves into vibration? What is time when all moments coexist in memory? What is self when thought and body constantly change? Ancient mystics said reality has layers, the physical, the mental, the spiritual, each more subtle than the last. Science, in its own way, agrees. The atom hides within it a universe of energy fields and quantum probabilities, invisible yet real. What we call real is only what our senses can decode, but the unseen is infinitely more vast. And so, reality becomes less like a fixed wall and more like a veil, translucent, shifting, layered. You can live your whole life touching only its surface, or you can learn to see through it. When you begin to look deeply, you realize that everything visible is a symbol, a pointer toward the invisible. The material is simply spirit made visible, thought, crystallized into form. And behind every form, something timeless watches, untouched, formless, eternal. That watcher is awareness itself. The more you look at the world, the more it begins to look back at you. Lesson 20. The Cosmic Mirror. The universe knows itself through your awareness. Imagine for a moment that the universe is not a place filled with observers, but a single consciousness, observing itself through billions of eyes. When you look at the stars, you're not a small creature peering at distant lights. You are the cosmos, reflecting on its own vastness. Every atom in your body was forged in the heart of a dying star. Every breath you take once moved through clouds, forests, oceans. You are not in the universe. You are the universe, becoming aware of itself. This is the great secret whispered by mystics and philosophers alike, from the Upanishads of India to Spinoza's monism, from Rumi's poetry to modern cosmology. Consciousness is not a side effect of the brain. It is the fundamental fabric of existence. The brain is the instrument, not the source. When you see, it is not merely you seeing. It is the universe looking through the aperture of your mind. When you think, it is the universe momentarily reflecting upon its own mystery. You are the mirror through which the infinite sees itself. Alan Watts once described it this way. You are the aperture through which the universe is looking at itself and exploring itself. That simple idea dissolves the illusion of smallness. It makes every act of awareness, even the quiet noticing of your breath, a sacred event. In that light, consciousness is not trapped within the human form. It flows through everything, stones, rivers, galaxies, though only in us does it seem to become aware that it's aware. The cosmos, in a sense, dreams through you. So when you gaze into the night sky and feel that strange pull, that mix of awe and longing, it's not because you're staring at something distant. It's because you're looking into your own reflection. And perhaps that's the ultimate mystery of metaphysics, that reality is not made of things, but of awareness intertwining with itself, forever exploring, forever becoming. You are not a part of the universe looking at the whole. You are the whole, looking at itself in part. Lesson 21. The Duality of Being. Light only exists because of shadow. Lao Tzu. The Taoists saw reality not as a battle between opposites, but as their dance. Lao Tzu taught that yin and yang, light and dark, creation and destruction, life and death, are not enemies. They are lovers in eternal embrace. One gives birth to the other. Without shadow, light would lose its meaning. Without sorrow, joy would lose its taste. The mind resists this truth. It craves one side and rejects the other, wanting permanence, purity, certainty. But existence is woven from tension, not perfection. Every sunrise carries the promise of night. Every birth carries the seed of decay. To fight one half of life is to reject life itself. The duality of being is not something to escape. It's something to understand. The light within you isn't meant to erase your darkness. It's meant to illuminate it. Only by knowing your shadow can you truly know your strength. Carl Jung said, "One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious." You are not good or bad, strong or weak. You are both, endlessly shifting between forms. This is the art of balance, to accept contradiction as truth. To realize that peace is not the absence of tension, but harmony within it. Life is not a straight line toward perfection. It's a spiral that turns through both joy and pain, again and again, refining you with each revolution. Light and shadow do not oppose each other. They complete the picture. Lesson 22. The Dance of Change. Nothing truly stands still, not even your thoughts. Heraclitus. Heraclitus believed that everything flows. You cannot step into the same river twice, he said, for it is not the same river, and you are not the same person. Change is not an event, it's the essence of existence. Every cell in your body, every atom in the universe, every feeling in your heart, all of it is in motion. The illusion of stability comes only from the mind's need for control. But beneath that illusion, life is a current, and you are always being carried forward. This realization can be frightening, because if nothing is permanent, then nothing can be held onto. Every friendship, every emotion, every version of yourself, all are temporary visitors. But this impermanence is also freedom. You are not trapped by what you were yesterday. You are constantly being renewed. Even your thoughts are waves, appearing, dissolving, replaced by new ones. The pain you feel now is not eternal. The joy you experience today will transform into something else. Everything is in flux. To live wisely, Heraclitus said, is to move with that current rather than resist it. Don't cling to what is fading. Don't mourn what must change. Instead, watch the transformation and recognize the beauty in its rhythm. The universe is not a static sculpture. It's a living symphony. And your role in it is not to hold one note forever, but to let it flow into the next, and the next, and the next. You are not a solid being in a moving world. You are the movement itself. Lesson 23. The question of I. Who is the one observing the thinker? Close your eyes for a moment. Watch your thoughts drift by, worries, memories, images, desires. They rise and fall like clouds passing through the sky. You can see them, but you are not them. So who, then, is the one who watches? This question lies at the heart of every spiritual and metaphysical tradition. The Buddha called this insight anatta, the realization that the self is not a fixed entity, but a process. Descartes said, "I think, therefore I am." But even he stopped short of asking, who is this I that thinks? When you look deeply, the self begins to dissolve. The you who existed 5 years ago, is that the same person here now? Every cell replaced, every belief changed, every memory softened by time. The idea of I is not a constant being, but a story told by the mind, a thread weaving through changing experiences to create continuity. Behind that story, something silent remains, the observer, the awareness that watches thoughts without being touched by them. It doesn't have a name, a history, or an age. It simply is. The Indian sage Nisargadatta Maharaj said, "Wisdom tells me I am nothing. Love tells me I am everything. Between the two, my life flows." That is the paradox of identity. You are both the dream and the dreamer. When you realize this, the ego's noise begins to fade. You no longer cling to titles, fears, or past identities. You return to the pure stillness of awareness, infinite, boundless, unchanging. The thinker is not who you are. You are the sky in which thoughts appear and disappear. Lesson 24. The Great Paradox. Reality is both infinitely vast and intimately personal. Look up at the night sky. See the cold, glittering silence of billions of galaxies, an immensity that renders human life almost invisible. And yet, in that same moment, you are feeling it, a tiny consciousness contemplating infinity. This is the great paradox, that you are both insignificant and sacred, a single breath in the endless cosmos. Yet the cosmos could not know itself without you. Metaphysics reveals a truth that humbles and elevates at once, that the universe exists both out there and in here. It stretches across infinite distances, yet its entire expanse collapses into the simple act of your awareness. The stars you see are ancient, but their light touches your eyes now. The past and the present merge within your perception. This paradox lives in every moment. You are made of dust from dying stars, yet you laugh, love, dream, and question. The infinite expresses itself through the intimate. The impersonal becomes personal through you. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna tells Arjuna, "I am the taste in the water, the light of the moon, the sound in the ether." The divine, or the real, is not something distant. It's the pulse within every breath, the presence within every perception. To grasp this is to live in awe, to see that every ordinary act, drinking water, hearing wind, touching a friend's hand, is a meeting point between the infinite and the finite, between the universe and the one who perceives it. You are both the smallest spark and the fire that lights the stars. And as we drift through the fabric of existence itself, one question lingers: how should we live within it? Chapter 4. The Compass of Morality, Lessons from Ethics. Right and wrong are not written in stone. They are carved through choice. Lesson 25. The Golden Mean. Virtue lies between excess and deficiency. Aristotle. Aristotle once said that courage is not the absence of fear, it's the balance between cowardice and recklessness. That's the essence of the golden mean, the path between two extremes. Every virtue, he believed, exists as a midpoint. Too much, and it becomes vice. Too little, and it loses its strength. Take honesty, for example. Brutal honesty can wound, while dishonesty corrodes trust. The balance, speaking truth with empathy, is where virtue lives. The same with generosity. Give too little, and you become selfish. Give too much, and you lose stability. The moral compass doesn't point to a fixed rule. It guides you toward harmony. In Aristotle's world, ethics was less about commandments and more about character. He believed moral wisdom came not from memorizing laws, but from practice, from living in the balance. You become virtuous not by knowing what's right, but by doing what's right repeatedly, until it becomes who you are. Think of life as a tightrope. On one side is indulgence, on the other, deprivation. Walk too far in either direction, and you fall. But if you learn to adjust your weight, to move with awareness, you remain centered. That is the art of virtue, not to be perfect, but to stay balanced through imperfection. The golden mean reminds us that morality isn't about extremes, it's about rhythm. It's about knowing when to push and when to yield, when to speak and when to stay silent, when to act and when to wait. Wisdom is not rigid, it's fluid. And those who master that balance become, as Aristotle said, good not by chance, but by choice. The moral life isn't found at the edges, it's found in the stillness between them. Lesson 26. The ripple of every action. Every act echoes through the web of existence. In ancient Buddhist philosophy, there's an image, a pond so still that a single drop of water can send ripples across its entire surface. That's karma, not as a system of cosmic reward and punishment, but as the law of interconnection. Every action, every word, every thought creates an echo. Most people think their choices are small, isolated, insignificant. But reality doesn't work that way. Every smile, every lie, every act of kindness or cruelty, they move outward, touching lives you'll never see. You may forget the things you say, but others carry them. You may never see the chain reaction of a kind act, but it continues silently. This truth is both humbling and empowering. It means nothing you do is meaningless. Every moment is a thread in the web of existence. A single choice can shift the course of another person's life, and through them, the course of the world. The Stoics understood this. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "What injures the hive, injures the bee." Humanity is not a collection of separate beings, it's a single living organism, and morality is the health of its soul. When you act out of greed, the harm returns to you. When you act out of compassion, the good multiplies beyond your sight. This is why true morality isn't just about avoiding wrong, it's about creating harmony. Every gesture is a vibration that either nourishes or disrupts the balance. Speak with gentleness, and you quiet storms. Act with cruelty, and you awaken chaos. When you realize the magnitude of your smallest actions, you begin to live with mindfulness. You start to move through the world as though every step leaves a mark, because it does. The moral universe is an ocean. Every drop you release becomes a wave that returns to you. Lesson 27. The goodwill. Moral worth lies in intention, not outcome. Kant. Immanuel Kant believed that morality begins not with success, but with sincerity. To him, the only thing that is good without qualification is a goodwill. Wealth, intelligence, and even happiness, they can all be used for evil. But a goodwill, one that acts from duty and principle rather than desire, is incorruptible. Kant's idea shattered the logic of moral convenience. He said it doesn't matter what happens as a result of your actions. What matters is why you chose them. A person who does good for the sake of praise is not moral. A person who does good despite having nothing to gain is. Imagine you help a stranger not because it feels good, but because it's right. Even if they never thank you, even if no one sees it, the act carries moral weight, because it was born from integrity, not from reward. Kant called this the categorical imperative, a principle that commands without condition. He said you should act only according to a rule that you would want to become universal law. In other words, if everyone behaved like you, would the world be better or worse? It's a hard mirror to face, because often our kindness is conditional, our honesty strategic, our morality flexible when convenience whispers. But Kant believed morality was not a matter of feelings, it was a matter of freedom, the ability to rise above instinct and choose principle. He taught that each person carries within them a moral law, not imposed by society, but written by reason itself. When you follow that inner law, you become autonomous, self-governed, free. So even if the world misunderstands your choices, even if the results seem small, if your intention is pure, your action has infinite worth. A good will shines even when unseen, because its value lies not in reward, but in reason. Lesson 28. The relativity of morals. Morality shifts with culture, yet compassion remains universal. Across history, humanity has drawn countless moral lines, only to erase and redraw them again. What one culture deems sacred, another calls forbidden. What one century praises, another condemns. Slavery, gender roles, war, justice, the moral compass of civilization has turned endlessly. This is the puzzle of moral relativism. If right and wrong shift with culture, is anything truly universal? Is morality just opinion dressed as virtue? Philosophers have wrestled with this for centuries. Nietzsche declared that morality was a human invention, a construct born of power, fear, and conformity. Others, like Gandhi, believed morality was a reflection of divine truth, accessible through conscience. And somewhere between those extremes lies a quiet insight, that while moral codes evolve, compassion remains constant. The expression changes, but the essence does not. 1,000 languages, 1,000 customs, yet the cry of a child in pain, the grief of a mother, the joy of kindness, these cross every border. Compassion is the thread that runs through every moral fabric. It's the one value that has never required translation. Moral relativism doesn't mean anything goes. It means recognizing that morality grows, like consciousness itself. It matures as our understanding deepens. What was once acceptable, conquest, cruelty, domination, becomes unthinkable as empathy expands. Humanity learns slowly, but it learns. The Stoics said that all people are citizens of one world, bound by reason and compassion. The Buddhists called it karu, the heart's capacity to feel another's suffering as one's own. Even science confirms what ethics long intuited. Empathy is woven into our biology. Mirror neurons, social bonding, emotional resonance. We are literally wired for compassion. So while moral codes may shift with time and place, compassion remains the compass that never fails. When you don't know what's right, choose what's kind. When rules conflict, follow the one that nurtures rather than harms. Morality may evolve, but the heart that feels for others remains timeless. Lesson 29. The Prisoner's Dilemma. Trust is the foundation of cooperation and progress. Two prisoners sit in separate cells. Each is given a choice: betray the other to gain freedom, or stay silent and risk punishment. If both betray, they both lose. If both stay silent, they both win lightly. But if one betrays while the other stays silent, one walks free while the other suffers. This is the prisoner's dilemma, a paradox that reveals something profound about human nature. It's not just a game of logic. It's a mirror reflecting the tension between trust and fear. The rational mind says, protect yourself. Betray first, before you are betrayed. But cooperation, the quiet, irrational faith in another's goodness, often leads to better outcomes for both. Societies, friendships, even civilizations are built on this fragile thread of trust. Without it, everything collapses into suspicion. The dilemma is not confined to prison walls. It plays out every day, in business, relationships, politics. Every time you choose to trust or to deceive, you're inside that same invisible room. Philosophers and game theorists alike have found that, over time, cooperation triumphs. Because even in a world of betrayal, the one who chooses trust teaches others to rise above fear. So the lesson is simple yet timeless. The path to progress is not paved by competition, but by faith. Faith that others can do good when given the chance. Trust may break your heart, but distrust breaks the world. To live well is to trust, not blindly, but bravely, knowing that without it, no bridge can ever stand. Lesson 30. The weight of conscience. The quiet voice within is often the truest guide. When the noise of the world fades, and you are left alone with yourself, what remains is conscience, that quiet, wordless pulse inside your chest that whispers, "You already know." Conscience isn't logic. It isn't fear. It's a kind of inner knowing, a subtle compass that points toward integrity, even when it costs you something. Socrates believed that every wrongdoing begins with ignorance, not of facts, but of self. He said, "No one knowingly does wrong." Perhaps that's because, when we truly listen to conscience, we can't pretend we don't know what's right. We can only silence it, for a while. You've felt it before, that unease when you lie, even slightly. That restlessness when you act against your own values. Conscience doesn't punish, it reminds. It reminds you that peace and truth share the same bed. The Stoics called it the demon, an inner spirit of reason and virtue. In Christianity, it's the moral voice of the soul. In Eastern philosophy, it's the quiet harmony of the heart when aligned with Dharma. No matter the culture or language, its presence is universal. The tragedy of modern life is how easy it is to drown that voice. We bury it beneath justifications, distractions, noise. Yet conscience doesn't shout. It waits. And when you finally listen, when you make a choice that aligns with that inner truth, something miraculous happens. The weight inside you lifts. Peace returns. The voice of conscience is soft, but ignore it, and the silence becomes deafening. Lesson 31. The mirror test. How would you live if every action were visible to all? Imagine for a moment that your life had no walls, no secrets, that everything you did, every word you spoke, every choice you made, was seen by all. Would you still act the same way? This is the mirror test, a thought experiment in moral transparency. It asks not what you can get away with, but who you become when no one is watching. The ancient Egyptians had a belief called the weighing of the heart. When a person died, their heart was placed on a scale opposite the feather of truth. If the heart was heavy with guilt, it sank. If it was light, the soul was free. The mirror test is a modern version of that ancient ritual, not after death, but in life. Every day, you weigh your actions against your own reflection. You can deceive others easily, but you cannot lie to your own eyes. The self always knows. And even if the world forgives you, you carry what you've done, like invisible ink only you can see. So ask yourself, if the world could see this choice, would I still make it? Not because others are watching, but because you are. Integrity is not about reputation. It's about congruence, the alignment between who you are in private and who you are in public. To live without shame, not because you are perfect, but because you are honest. The purest peace is looking in the mirror and meeting no stranger there. Lesson 32. The ethics of being kind. The simplest virtue is often the most profound. In a world that glorifies complexity, kindness is often dismissed as naive, a soft virtue for soft people. But philosophers across ages knew otherwise. Aristotle called kindness a moral excellence. The Buddha called it the highest wisdom. Even Nietzsche, who scorned weakness, spoke of the strength it takes to be gentle in a brutal world. Kindness is not sentimentality, it's discipline. It requires seeing beyond yourself. It asks you to slow down, to understand before judging, to give without expecting. And sometimes, that's harder than any grand act of heroism. It doesn't demand wealth, or education, or brilliance. Just presence. Just the willingness to soften when the world hardens. You never truly know what another person carries, the weight behind their eyes, the storm beneath their calm. A kind word, a small gesture, can be the invisible thread that keeps them from unraveling. The ethical beauty of kindness is that it multiplies silently. One act inspires another, and the ripple moves outward, transforming the atmosphere of human connection. And yet, kindness must be balanced with wisdom. True compassion isn't about pleasing everyone. It's about recognizing what genuinely helps. Sometimes, the kindest act is honesty. Sometimes, it's distance. But it always stems from the same root, care. Kindness, in its purest form, is not weakness but awakening. It reminds us that morality doesn't only live in grand philosophies. It lives in the tone of your voice, in the patience of your silence, in the warmth of your smallest gestures. To be kind is to live in harmony with life itself, gently, courageously, and without need for recognition. And when you act rightly, not for reward but for peace, you begin to see the quiet architecture of happiness. Chapter 5. The Architecture of Happiness. Happiness is not a place you arrive, it's a rhythm you align with. Lesson 33. The Pursuit of Eudaimonia. True happiness is found in fulfilling your purpose. Aristotle. Aristotle didn't define happiness as pleasure, success, or comfort. To him, happiness, eudaimonia, was something much deeper. It was the quiet satisfaction that comes from living in harmony with your purpose, from becoming the fullest version of who you're meant to be. He believed every living thing has an essence, a function that gives it meaning. The purpose of a seed is to grow into a tree. The purpose of an eye is to see. And the purpose of a human being? To reason, to act with virtue, and to contribute to the good of life itself. True happiness, Aristotle said, is not a fleeting emotion. It's the ongoing activity of living virtuously, choosing courage over comfort, wisdom over impulse, balance over chaos. It's not about what you feel in a moment, but what you become over time. In today's world, we chase pleasures that vanish the moment we touch them. We call it happiness, but it's only stimulation. The deeper joy, the one Aristotle spoke of, doesn't depend on luck or wealth. It's cultivated, day by day, through meaningful action. You experience it when your talents meet your values, when you create something that matters, when you live with integrity, even when no one is watching. That's eudaimonia, a happiness that doesn't shout, but hums quietly beneath the noise of life. So perhaps the path to happiness is not in finding new pleasures, but in remembering who you are. Because when you align your life with your purpose, you stop chasing meaning and start embodying it. Happiness is not a feeling to be pursued, but a state of being to be practiced. Lesson 34. The hedonic trap. Pleasure fades, meaning endures. The human mind is a restless creature. It adapts to everything, both joy and sorrow. This adaptability is a gift, but it's also a curse. It means that no matter how much pleasure you gather, its sweetness fades with time. Psychologists call this the hedonic treadmill. You get what you want, a new car, a promotion, a relationship, and for a brief moment, you feel joy. But then, slowly, the feeling dulls. The thrill becomes the new normal. And soon, you begin to crave more. You start running again. Faster, harder, chasing that next hit of happiness. But the treadmill never stops. Because pleasure is designed to fade. That's how the mind keeps you surviving, evolving, reaching. Epicurus, often misunderstood as a philosopher of indulgence, actually warned against this trap. He said pleasure is not the goal, freedom from unnecessary desire is. True contentment, he believed, comes not from having more, but from needing less. Pleasure, like fire, can warm you or consume you. It's beautiful in moderation, destructive in excess. And the paradox of chasing it is that the more you seek it, the less it satisfies. Meaning, on the other hand, doesn't fade. When your actions are guided by purpose, by love, creativity, contribution, they leave something permanent inside you. Even suffering becomes bearable when it serves something greater. Viktor Frankl, who survived the concentration camps, said it clearly. Those who have a why to live can bear almost anyhow. Pleasure is temporary fuel. Meaning is an eternal flame. So the next time you reach for comfort, pause. Ask yourself, is this pleasure expanding me or numbing me? Is it fleeting or fulfilling? Because happiness is not about escaping discomfort. It's about embracing meaning that outlasts it. Pleasure fills the moment. Meaning fills the soul. Lesson 35. The contentment of enough. Simplicity is the highest form of wealth. There is a moment in every life when you realize that more will never be enough. No matter how much you collect, money, possessions, praise, the hunger returns. Because the craving isn't for things, but for peace. The Stoics knew this well. Seneca wrote, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more, who is poor." True wealth, he believed, is the ability to be content with what you already have. Our world celebrates abundance, but it rarely teaches sufficiency. You are told to dream bigger, own more, reach higher, but rarely to pause and breathe. And yet, contentment doesn't mean complacency. It doesn't mean giving up ambition. It means mastering it, letting ambition serve you, not enslave you. When you simplify, you begin to see clearly. You realize that happiness doesn't live in luxury. It lives in clarity. A cluttered life mirrors a cluttered mind. The fewer things you chase, the more space you create for gratitude. Buddhism calls this santosa, the joy of enough. Not because you settle, but because you recognize the fullness of the present. It's the moment you sip water and taste peace. The moment you stand under sunlight and feel abundance without owning anything. Modern science agrees. Beyond a modest level of comfort, more wealth doesn't create more happiness. The difference between comfort and chaos lies not in possessions, but perception. So perhaps happiness begins when you stop asking, "What do I still need?" and start whispering, "What do I already have?" Enough is not a number, it's a state of grace. Lesson 36. The flow state. Happiness emerges when effort becomes effortless. Csikszentmihalyi. There are moments when time dissolves, when action and awareness merge into one seamless current. You stop thinking and simply become. The painter disappears into the painting. The athlete becomes the motion. The writer becomes the words. Psychologist Mihai Csikszentmihalyi called this flow the state of total immersion in a meaningful challenge. It's the meeting point between skill and difficulty, where effort transforms into ease, and the self dissolves into the act. Flow isn't about control, it's about surrender. You can't force it, only invite it. It arises when you are fully present, when every part of your attention is absorbed in the moment. There's no past, no future, only now. And within that now, happiness is not something you think about, it's something you are. The philosopher Alan Watts once said, "The meaning of life is just to be alive." Flow is that truth in motion. It's the feeling of being so aligned with your action that thought becomes silent. Children experience this naturally, playing, building, exploring. But adults often lose it beneath distraction and anxiety. To find it again, you must return to the simplicity of full engagement. It doesn't matter what you do, painting, cooking, coding, running. What matters is that you give yourself completely to it. Flow is not about the task, but the absorption. When you stop measuring yourself and start merging with the act, joy appears. Flow teaches that happiness isn't passive. It's active, alive, participatory. You can't consume it, you must enter it. So, the path to happiness may not be in seeking pleasure or comfort, but in finding those moments that make you forget to seek anything at all. When the mind disappears into the moment, happiness becomes indistinguishable from life itself. Lesson 37. The gratitude principle. Appreciation transforms ordinary moments into sacred ones. Imagine waking up one morning, and for a brief second, everything you own, your bed, your breath, your heartbeat, vanishes. In that single instant, you would realize the sheer miracle of simply existing. Gratitude is not about acquiring more. It's about realizing how much you already have. The philosopher Epictetus once said, "He is a wise man who does not grieve for the things which he is not, but rejoices for those which he has." Modern psychology confirms what ancient philosophy intuited. Gratitude rewires the brain. Each time you pause to appreciate, your mind releases dopamine and serotonin, the very chemicals of joy. But beyond biology, gratitude deepens awareness. It turns a cup of water into a blessing, a conversation into connection, a sunset into an experience of eternity. The truth is, gratitude is a lens, not a list. It's not counting what you're thankful for. It's seeing differently. The ordinary world doesn't change, but your relationship to it does. A man stuck in traffic can curse the delay, or he can marvel at the technology that lets him move at all. A woman doing dishes can resent the chore, or she can feel thankful that she ate today. Gratitude, in essence, is the art of sanctifying the mundane. And when you practice it deeply, something profound happens. Time slows down. You stop chasing what's next and begin inhabiting what is. The moment becomes alive, breathing, sacred. Gratitude doesn't just make you happy, it makes you awake. Lesson 38. The Happiness Paradox. Chasing happiness makes it run faster. Stillness lets it return. We live in an age obsessed with happiness. Books promise it, influencers sell it, apps track it. Yet the more we chase it, the more elusive it becomes. This is the paradox. Happiness is like a butterfly. The harder you grasp, the quicker it slips away. Philosophers from the Buddha to Viktor Frankl understood this well. The Buddha taught that desire, the craving for constant pleasure, is the root of suffering. Frankl, who endured the horrors of a concentration camp, observed that happiness cannot be pursued directly. It must ensue as a byproduct of living with purpose. When you say, "I want to be happy," you're actually reinforcing the belief that you're not. The very act of chasing creates distance between you and the feeling itself. That's why true happiness emerges not when you hunt it, but when you forget to look. Think about the moments when you were genuinely happy, laughing uncontrollably with friends, losing yourself in music, or helping someone in need. In each of those moments, you weren't trying to be happy. You were simply present. Happiness came quietly, uninvited, like sunlight through an open window. So stop chasing the butterfly. Sit still. Let it land. Happiness is not found in striving, but in surrender, not in asking life to give you more, but in noticing that it already has. Lesson 39. The Compassion Connection. We are happiest when we dissolve the illusion of me and you. Beneath all the noise of the human mind lies a deep truth. Separation is an illusion. Neuroscience calls it the ego boundary. Spirituality calls it Maya. Philosophy calls it dualism. Whatever the name, it's the false sense that we are isolated beings, cut off from the rest of existence. But compassion pierces this illusion. When you truly empathize, when you feel another's joy or pain as your own, the boundaries blur. The self expands. And in that expansion, happiness blooms. The Dalai Lama once said, "If you want others to be happy, practice compassion. If you want to be happy, practice compassion." Studies in positive psychology now confirm this ancient wisdom. Acts of kindness trigger the same pleasure centers in the brain as receiving rewards. The giver and receiver both benefit because, in truth, they are one. Every act of compassion, a kind word, a patient ear, a silent prayer, becomes a rebellion against the illusion of separation. It says, "I see myself in you." And the more you practice this, the lighter your heart becomes. Because compassion isn't just moral, it's practical spirituality. It heals loneliness, dissolves bitterness, and reconnects us with the flow of life itself. When you live for others, you discover something paradoxical. You have never been more yourself. Lesson 40. The Serenity of Purpose. Happiness follows those who stop asking for it. There's a quiet peace that comes from no longer demanding that life entertain you. When you stop asking, "Am I happy?" and instead ask, "Am I useful?" the entire emotional landscape shifts. Purpose does not mean grand ambition or cosmic destiny. It can be simple, caring for your family, creating something beautiful, or easing another's burden. What matters is direction. A river has peace not because it's still, but because it flows. The same is true for the human spirit. Aristotle called this telos, the fulfillment of one's inherent potential. Modern science agrees. People who feel their lives have meaning report greater life satisfaction, even during hardship. Purpose gives suffering a context and pleasure a foundation. Without it, even abundance feels empty. So how do you find it? You listen, not to the noise of the world, but to the quiet pull inside. The part of you that feels alive when you write, teach, build, nurture, or serve. Purpose isn't invented, it's remembered. It's what your soul has been whispering all along. And once you align with it, happiness stops being the goal. It becomes the natural rhythm of your existence. The storms still come, but you no longer fear them. You move with life, not against it. In the end, happiness is not a treasure buried in the future. It's the calm certainty that you're walking the right path, even when it's hard to see where it leads. But to be truly happy, one must understand time, the silent sculptor of all things. Chapter 6. The River of Time. Time is a current, and we are the water flowing through it. Lesson 41. The present moment. The past is memory. The future, imagination. Only now is real. Eckhart Tolle. Close your eyes for a moment. Feel your breath entering, leaving. Feel the faint pulse in your fingertips. That is reality. Not the memory of yesterday, not the anticipation of tomorrow. Only this, right here. The human mind, however, is addicted to time. We replay our past like an endless film, wishing to rewrite scenes already printed on the reel. Or we project ourselves into the future, imagining victories and catastrophes that may never arrive. We live everywhere, but now. Eckhart Tolle called this the human condition, a species haunted by time. We suffer not from what is happening, but from our resistance to what is. The present moment becomes a mere means to an imagined end. We treat now as a stepping stone, not realizing it's the entire path. But what happens when you truly return to the present? When thought pauses, even for a breath, time itself dissolves. There's no past to regret, no future to fear, just the vibrant pulse of being. In that stillness, awareness awakens. You hear the hum of life beneath everything, the subtle sound of existence breathing through you. The past is gone, except as a memory trace in your brain. The future is unborn, except as imagination. Only the present exists, and it is always enough. Every joy you've ever experienced happened now. Every miracle that will ever occur will happen now. The present moment is eternity, disguised as a fleeting second. To live fully, you don't need to master time. You need to surrender to it. Because when you stop running after moments, the moment itself runs toward you. Lesson 42. The Arrow of Change. All things flow, nothing stands still. Heraclitus. The ancient philosopher Heraclitus once said, "You cannot step into the same river twice." At first, it sounds poetic, but it's one of the most profound observations ever made about existence. Everything changes. The river, the world, you. The water that touched your foot a second ago is gone. The molecules in your body, the thoughts in your mind, even the stars in the sky, all in motion. The universe is not a static sculpture, it's a dance. Yet we resist this truth. We cling to permanence, to stability, to the illusion of forever. We want people to stay the same, emotions to remain predictable, and good times to last indefinitely. But reality doesn't freeze. It flows, endlessly, indifferently, beautifully. The arrow of change is both our greatest challenge and our greatest gift. It reminds us that everything we love will eventually transform, and that's what gives it value. A blooming flower, a childhood moment, a passing sunset, all are precious because they end. The Stoics embrace this idea through a more fatty, the love of fate. To love change, even loss, because it's the essence of life itself. When we stop resisting impermanence, we begin to see its poetry. Growth depends on decay. Morning follows night. Even heartbreak carves space for deeper love. Everything flows, said Heraclitus, and you are not apart from that flow. You are the current, the river, the ever-changing wave. The secret is not to hold on, but to move gracefully with it. Because the beauty of life is not in its stillness, but in its ceaseless becoming. Lesson 43. The Illusion of Time. To the universe, all moments may already coexist. Time, as we experience it, feels linear, past, present, future, like beads on a string. But physics tells a stranger story. According to Einstein's theory of relativity, time is not a universal flow but a flexible fabric, stretched and bent by gravity and speed. The faster you move, the slower time becomes. Near a black hole, it nearly stops. This means something astonishing. Time may not flow at all. It might simply be a vast landscape where every moment, past, present, and future, already exists simultaneously. The you of childhood, the you of now, and the you yet to come all coexist in the great tapestry of space-time. To the universe, there is no ticking clock, only a timeless structure. It's our consciousness, our limited perception, that slices eternity into moments, like frames in a film reel. We experience them sequentially, believing in motion where there is only stillness. This challenges everything we think we know. If all moments already exist, then becoming is an illusion. Perhaps your future self is not something you're moving toward, but something you're already connected to, waiting to be realized in awareness. This doesn't make life meaningless. It makes it miraculous. It means the universe is not unfolding in front of you. You are unfolding within it. Every heartbeat, every choice, every moment of awareness is the cosmos experiencing itself from a single point in space and time. When we understand this, fear of the future begins to fade. Death loses its sting. Because if time is an illusion, then so is loss. Nothing truly disappears. It simply shifts position in eternity's grand design. Lesson 44. The eternal now. When you truly awaken, every second becomes infinite. There are rare moments when time seems to stop, when you are so immersed in life that the clock vanishes. The sound of rain, a deep conversation, a moment of awe, and suddenly, you're not thinking about time, you're inside it. This is the eternal now, not a philosophical idea, but an experience. Mystics across centuries have described it. When the mind grows silent, and the chatter of past and future fades, something vast opens. It feels like eternity compressed into a single breath. In this state, even the smallest detail glows with significance. A ray of light through dust, a heartbeat, a sigh, all become doorways into the infinite. Because the now is not just another point in time. It's the dimension where time dissolves entirely. To awaken to it, you don't need to escape the world or meditate in caves. You simply need to notice. Notice the texture of this moment. The sensation of being alive right now. Every second contains the entirety of existence. You just have to see it. This was the insight behind Zen koans, the paradoxical riddles designed to snap the mind out of its linear trance. Before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. Nothing changes outwardly, yet everything changes inwardly. When you live from the eternal now, the burden of time lifts. Regret dissolves because the past is complete. Anxiety fades because the future is already unfolding as it must. You become like the ocean, vast, timeless, reflecting all without clinging to any wave. And perhaps that is what awakening truly means, realizing that eternity is not somewhere far away. It's here, now, flowing through your veins, whispering through the seconds you once called fleeting. Lesson 45. The patience of becoming. Growth requires surrender to time's slow rhythm. We live in an age that worships speed, fast progress, instant results, immediate satisfaction. But nature, the greatest teacher of all, whispers a different lesson. All growth takes time. A tree doesn't rush to become a forest. The seed does not demand to bloom overnight. The universe itself took billions of years to shape stars and galaxies. Yet we, fragile and fleeting, grow impatient with our own unfolding. The Stoics knew that wisdom is not a sudden awakening. It's a slow erosion of illusion. Just as the river carves stone, time carves the soul. Each challenge, each failure, each quiet hour of persistence, these are not delays. They are the rhythm of becoming. Growth asks for patience not because it's slow, but because it's sacred. The process itself refines you. The struggle you despise is sculpting your character. The waiting you resist, is deepening your roots. You cannot rush transformation any more than you can rush dawn. To surrender to time is not to give up. It is to trust the invisible work happening beneath the surface. The flower does not fear the soil's darkness. It knows that from decay comes bloom. And so it is with you. The life you desire is growing quietly in the dark, waiting for its appointed hour to rise toward the light. Patience, then, is not passivity. It's partnership with time. It's faith that becoming takes as long as it must, and that in your waiting, you are already growing. Lesson 46. The memory thread. Identity is a story memory keeps writing. Who are you really? Is it the name you carry? The face in the mirror? The collection of moments that live behind your eyes? Your identity is not a fixed sculpture. It's a thread woven by memory. Every joy, every loss, every unnoticed moment adds a stitch to the tapestry of you. And though we believe our past is behind us, it quietly shapes every thought, reaction, and dream. But here's the paradox. Memory is unreliable. It distorts, edits, and invents. We remember not reality, but our interpretation of it. In a sense, we are all living inside self-created myths, retelling them until they feel true. The mind, in its longing for meaning, turns fragments of memory into narrative. It builds continuity where there is only change. And yet, without this illusion, we'd be adrift, a consciousness without anchor. Memory gives us direction. It reminds us who we've been so we can choose who to become. But sometimes, memory also traps us. We replay pain as identity, calling ourselves by old names written in suffering. We forget that stories can be rewritten. The past is real, yes, but it is not a prison. It's a foundation on which to build, not a cage to remain in. Every day, memory offers you the pen again. You can choose which stories to keep and which to release. You can choose to see yourself not as a collection of wounds, but as a living continuation, an author still writing. Your past may explain you, but it does not define you. Memory holds the thread, but your awareness holds the loom. Lesson 47. The fragility of tomorrow. Each day is borrowed. Live with gentle urgency. Tomorrow is the most dangerous illusion we live with. We act as though it's guaranteed, as though life owes us another sunrise. But the truth is quieter and more fragile. Every tomorrow is a gift on loan from existence. This fragility isn't meant to frighten you. It's meant to awaken you. Because when you realize that life is impermanent, you stop sleepwalking through it. You start paying attention. The philosopher Seneca once wrote, "You act like mortals in all that you fear, and like immortals in all that you desire." We postpone our joy, our love, our truth, as if there will always be more time. But there won't always be. One day, the clock will run out. So live with gentle urgency. Not the frantic rush of panic, but the quiet intensity of someone who knows this moment will never return. Say what you mean. Love who you love. Notice the way sunlight falls across the wall, or how the air smells after rain. Because these moments, the small, unrepeatable ones, are what life truly is. Tomorrow is a promise written in disappearing ink. But today, this breath, this heartbeat, is real. You hold it, right now, in your hands. Cherish it. Live it well. Lesson 48. The rebirth in every breath. Each inhale is a tiny resurrection. There's something miraculous about breathing when you really notice it. Each inhale is life arriving. Each exhale, life letting go. Between them lies the delicate balance of existence, death and rebirth happening in every second. You've taken thousands of breaths today, most of them unnoticed. Yet each one carries the same quiet truth. To live is to die, and to begin again, endlessly. Every morning you wake, every sigh, every moment you forgive, every time you start over. These are all small resurrections. The Buddhists call it impermanence. Mystics call it renewal. But the essence is the same. You are constantly being remade. The person you were yesterday no longer exists, not entirely. Cells die, thoughts fade, emotions shift. You are new in every breath, even when you don't feel it. So breathe with awareness. Feel the air fill your lungs. That's existence saying, you still belong here. Feel it leave. That's the universe reminding you to let go. You don't have to cling to the past or fear what's next. You are being reborn moment by moment. To live is to die 1,000 tiny deaths and to awaken 1,000 tiny times more. The rhythm of your breath is the rhythm of creation itself. Expansion, contraction, renewal. Each inhale is a quiet miracle. Each exhale, a sacred surrender. And somewhere between them, life happens, fleeting, fragile, infinite. And if time shapes everything we are, then knowledge becomes the compass that helps us navigate it. Chapter 7. Lessons from Epistemology. To know is to admit how little you understand. Lesson 49. The illusion of certainty. Doubt is not weakness, it's the beginning of wisdom. Socrates. Socrates spent his life asking questions that had no final answers. He understood something few ever grasp. The illusion of certainty is the enemy of truth. To say, I know, is to close the door to deeper seeing. But to say, I do not know, that is the doorway to wisdom. We crave certainty because it makes the world feel safe. We build beliefs like walls, convincing ourselves that our understanding is complete. But truth is not a solid structure. It's a horizon that keeps moving the closer you get. The wise are not those who know everything. They are those who are comfortable with not knowing. Doubt, when embraced, becomes a kind of clarity. It humbles the ego, softens the mind, and allows new understanding to emerge. Every great thinker begins with uncertainty. Every discovery starts with a question. The philosopher, the scientist, the seeker, all walk the same uncertain road, guided not by answers, but by curiosity. So let doubt live in you. Let it unsettle your convictions. Because wisdom is not found in being right. It's found in being awake. Lesson 50. The map is not the territory. Perception is not reality, only a sketch of it. The world you experience is not the world as it is. It's the world as your mind interprets it. Your senses filter, your brain translates, your belief set it. What you call reality is a mental map drawn from incomplete data. We assume what we see is true, but vision itself is illusion. The eye receives light, flips it upside down, and the brain reinterprets it. Every perception is a translation, not a direct experience. This idea, that the map is not the territory, reminds us that our understanding will always be partial. Our models of reality, whether scientific, spiritual, or personal, are only representations. Useful, yes. Accurate, never completely. The danger comes when we mistake the map for the thing itself. When we cling to our interpretations as truth, we stop exploring. But when we remember that our view is limited, curiosity stays alive. Reality is vaster than thought, deeper than language, and endlessly mysterious. What we know are sketches drawn in the sand, beautiful, temporary, and always incomplete. Lesson 51. The paradox of knowledge. The more we learn, the more we see what's beyond reach. Knowledge expands like a horizon. With each discovery, we don't reduce the unknown, we only reveal more of it. The more we understand, the more we glimpse the immensity of what remains hidden. A child thinks the world is small because their world is small. As they grow, they learn of oceans, galaxies, and quantum fields. But each new layer of understanding doesn't end mystery, it multiplies it. That's the paradox of knowledge. Illumination brings darkness into view. Every answer uncovers new questions. Every solved mystery deepens the next. This is why true intelligence is never arrogant. It's humble, because it recognizes the infinite expanse beyond its grasp. The scientist who studies the cosmos and the monk who contemplates the divine arrive at the same truth. The more you see, the less you can say. To seek knowledge, then, is to walk a widening circle, not toward completion, but toward reverence. Because the ultimate purpose of learning is not to conquer mystery, but to fall in love with it. Lesson 52. The quiet ignorance. Knowing nothing can be more peaceful than knowing everything. There is a kind of peace that only the unknowing can touch. When you realize how little control knowledge gives you, how uncertain every truth remains, You stop reaching for intellectual dominance and begin to rest in wonder. The world today drowns in information but starves for understanding. We know the statistics of everything but the meaning of nothing. Our minds are cluttered with facts, yet our hearts remain uneasy. Quiet ignorance, not the ignorance of denial, but the humility of letting go, is a sanctuary. It's the space where knowledge bows to silence, where curiosity no longer needs to possess, only to experience. When the mind stops clinging to explanations, the world feels alive again. A sunset is no longer wavelengths, it's beauty. A breath is not biology, it's a miracle. There's wisdom in returning to the beginner's mind, to look at the world as if for the first time, free of labels, free of knowing. Because sometimes, peace is not in what you add, but in what you release. Lesson 53. The filter of belief. We see not the world as it is, but as we are. Every mind is a lens, and every lens distorts. Our beliefs, fears, and desires act as filters, shaping what we notice and what we ignore. Two people can look at the same event and see two different worlds. We don't perceive reality, we project it. The world reflects the state of our inner being. A fearful mind sees danger everywhere. A grateful mind sees grace in everything. What you believe, you begin to experience, not because the world changes, but because your attention does. This is why philosophy and psychology both insist on self-awareness. To know truth, you must first see how your mind bends it. You must ask, what assumptions am I carrying? What story am I unconsciously writing over reality? When the filter clears, the world softens. You start seeing not what you expect, but what truly is. The sky, the people, the smallest moments, they all glow with quiet clarity. Because the more you see yourself clearly, the clearer the world becomes. Lesson 54. The teacher within. Wisdom arises when knowledge meets reflection. You can fill your mind with books, but without reflection, it remains noise. Information only becomes wisdom when it passes through the filter of experience. There's a teacher within you, silent, patient, observant. It speaks not through lectures, but through quiet realizations that come after thought. The true act of learning happens not when you read, but when you pause. Philosophers like Marcus Aurelius and Seneca practiced nightly reflection, asking what they had done, thought, or felt that day. In that stillness, they turned life into a classroom. Because wisdom is not about collecting truths, it's about digesting them. It's what remains after you've forgotten the words, but kept the meaning. Listen to your inner teacher. Let reflection turn knowledge into insight, and insight into peace. For everything you seek to learn already exists in the quiet chambers of your awareness, waiting to be heard. Lesson 55. The curiosity flame. The mind that questions never grows old. Curiosity is the heartbeat of consciousness. It's what keeps the soul young, even as the body ages. The moment you stop asking questions, you begin to fade into the illusion of certainty. Every great leap in history, from art to science to philosophy, began with someone asking why. The child pulling apart a toy, the scientist peering into atoms, the mystic gazing at the stars, all share the same spark. Curiosity is the refusal to accept that everything is known. It's the hunger that propels evolution, the fire that keeps thought alive. To question is not to doubt life, but to honor its complexity. And curiosity, when pure, has no agenda. It doesn't demand answers, it delights in the asking. The mystery itself becomes nourishment. Keep that flame alive. Protect it from cynicism, from fatigue, from the dullness of routine. Because a questioning mind is not restless, it's alive. And an alive mind, even in the dark, always finds light. Lesson 56. The humility of unknowing. To stay open is to stay alive. In the end, the wisest realize that they know almost nothing. The more they've seen, the more they understand how vast reality truly is. This humility is not defeat, it's liberation. To stay open means to allow life to surprise you. To meet each moment without preconception. It means walking through the world like a pilgrim, with reverence, not ownership. The mind that insists it knows has already stopped learning. But the one that bows before mystery is continuously renewed. Alan Watts once said, "To understand the mystery, you must be both scientist and poet." The scientist asks how things work. The poet asks what they mean. Between the two lies humility, the recognition that no answer will ever be final. So let your knowing be gentle. Let it breathe. Let it evolve. Because the more you loosen your grip on truth, the more truth begins to flow through you. And maybe that's what wisdom truly is, not the possession of knowledge, but the peace of unknowing. But knowledge without balance can drown the soul. Wisdom must be guided by meaning. Chapter 8. The Search for Meaning. Life has no inherent meaning, and therein lies its freedom. Lesson 57. The Blank Canvas. Meaning is not given. It's painted through living. Camus. Albert Camus once said that life is absurd, not because it's meaningless, but because we desperately crave meaning in a universe that offers none by default. It's like staring at a blank canvas and asking, why is there nothing here? The truth is, the nothingness is the invitation. You are the painter. Every moment of your life is a stroke on that canvas. The choices you make, the risks you take, the love you give, and the failures you endure. Meaning isn't hidden somewhere waiting to be found like buried treasure. It's crafted in the act of living itself. The artist doesn't wait for the canvas to instruct him. He simply begins. The philosopher Viktor Frankl, who survived the Holocaust, once observed that even in the darkest moments, life's meaning is not something we uncover, it's something we assign. He found meaning in suffering by choosing to endure with dignity. The absurdity didn't vanish, but his response transformed it. So, the blankness isn't emptiness, it's potential. It's the space where you decide what your existence will stand for. Lesson 58. The Thread of Contribution. Purpose blooms when your life uplifts another's. If meaning begins within, purpose expands outward. Human beings are social creatures. We're stitched into each other's stories. The philosopher William James once said that the greatest use of life is to spend it for something that will outlast it. Think of every genuine act of contribution. Feeding someone hungry, teaching a child, listening without judgment, creating something that makes another person's life better. Each act weaves another thread into the vast tapestry of human existence. These threads are invisible but eternal. Contribution doesn't have to be grand. It could be your quiet consistency, your work ethic, or the smile you offer a stranger. These small ripples, amplified through countless others, become waves that shape the world. Purpose, then, isn't a title or destination. It's a relationship. It's how you choose to interact with the lives orbiting yours. When your life becomes useful to others, you begin to transcend yourself. And in that transcendence, purpose reveals itself as love in motion. Lesson 59. The Power of Direction. Even a small aim brings coherence to chaos. Imagine standing in a storm, wind howling, leaves flying, dust clouding your vision. That's life without direction. You're alive, but scattered. Purpose doesn't require a grand vision or a world-changing mission. It only asks for direction. The Stoics called it telos, an end toward which one moves. Even a small aim, to grow a garden, to learn a craft, to heal from something painful, can align your days into harmony. When you have direction, chaos becomes context. The obstacles you face no longer feel meaningless. They become milestones. Every failure starts to make sense, not as an ending, but as refinement. Friedrich Nietzsche said, "He who has a why to live can bear almost anyhow." A person anchored by a purpose can endure storms that would otherwise shatter them. So the question is not whether life is chaotic. It always is. The real question is, what is your direction through that chaos? Lesson 60. The Myth of Arrival. There is no final destination, only deeper becoming. We often live as if life is a journey towards some grand arrival. The perfect job, the ideal partner, the final enlightenment. But the illusion of arrival keeps us chasing horizons that always move as we approach. Every time you reach what you thought was the end, graduation, success, healing, you realize the path simply continues. Each destination dissolves into another beginning. The mountain peak only reveals another peak beyond it. Existentialists like Sartre and Camus saw this not as tragedy, but as liberation. If there is no final arrival, then every step is sacred. Life is not a line toward something, but a spiral, each loop bringing you closer to depth, not completion. So stop waiting for the day when it all makes sense. It won't. The beauty lies in becoming, not arriving. The purpose of the journey is the journey itself. Lesson 61. The sacred ordinary. Purpose hides in the smallest rituals. We imagine meaning in grand gestures, revolutions, discoveries, breakthroughs, but often it hides in the most ordinary moments. A quiet cup of tea at sunrise, folding your clothes with care, saying goodnight to someone you love. The Japanese concept of ikigai captures this beautifully, the joy of being engaged in something simple yet meaningful every day. It's not about changing the world, but fully inhabiting the moment you're in. The sacred isn't somewhere else, it's embedded in the present. You just have to slow down enough to see it. When you wash a dish, you're not just cleaning, you're participating in the rhythm of existence. When you walk outside and feel the wind, you're touching eternity in motion. The small things, done with care, form the backbone of a meaningful life. Meaning doesn't hide in extraordinary moments. It hides in your attention. Lesson 62. The dialogue with suffering. Pain invites the question, what will I do with this? Every human life encounters suffering, sometimes sharp and sudden, sometimes slow and quiet. But suffering, as brutal as it feels, has a strange property. It asks questions that comfort never does. Pain whispers, now that this has happened, what will you do? You can collapse, deny, or rebel, but eventually, meaning demands participation. The philosopher Nietzsche wrote, to live is to suffer, to survive is to find meaning in the suffering. You can't always control pain, but you can choose how to relate to it. Will it shrink you or shape you? Will it make you bitter or make you real? Some of the most meaningful lives in history, from Nelson Mandela to Helen Keller, were sculpted by suffering. They didn't seek it, but when it came, they responded with purpose. Suffering cracks the illusion of permanence and invites us to see life more clearly. Fragile, fleeting, yet infinitely precious. Lesson 63. The infinite game. Meaning is not to win, but to keep playing. Carse. In Finite and Infinite Games, philosopher James Carse wrote that there are two kinds of games. Finite ones, where the goal is to win, and infinite ones, where the goal is to keep playing. Life is the latter. A finite game ends, with success, loss, or death. But the infinite game continues. Its aim is to sustain life, to expand understanding, to deepen love. When you treat life like an infinite game, you stop competing to win and start creating to continue. You don't measure progress by trophies or applause, but by the depth of your participation. Every act of creation, kindness, or discovery keeps the game alive for others to join. That's the quiet beauty of meaning. It's not about reaching an end, but ensuring the music doesn't stop. To play, even knowing you'll one day leave the stage, is the purest form of grace. Lesson 64. The eternal question. The point is not to find an answer, but to stay awake to the question. Human beings have always asked, why are we here? The question itself is older than civilization. But perhaps, as the mystics and philosophers suggest, the purpose is not to answer it, but to keep it alive. Every answer you find eventually collapses under the weight of deeper questions. Every belief, every certainty, is temporary scaffolding. But the act of questioning, of remaining curious, open, and humble, is the essence of being alive. The universe may never reveal its ultimate meaning, but in asking, we participate in it. To wonder is to touch the divine. And in seeking meaning, we meet the shadow, the part of us we spend lifetimes avoiding. Chapter 9. Lessons from Depth Psychology. The monsters we flee from often guard the treasures we seek. Lesson 65. The mirror of the unconscious. What you deny controls you. What you face transforms you. Carl Jung once said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. The unconscious isn't a dark room of random fears. It's a living mirror reflecting every desire, fear, and forgotten truth you've buried. Each time you suppress an emotion, ignore a wound, or pretend something doesn't matter, it sinks beneath awareness and begins to steer you from the shadows. You see it in the way people repeat toxic patterns, sabotage relationships, or chase validation they don't truly need. These aren't conscious choices, they're unconscious scripts playing out in silence. To face the unconscious is to look into that mirror without flinching, to recognize that the monster under the bed was always a part of you. The process isn't easy. It requires brutal honesty. It means admitting that you can be jealous, cruel, or manipulative, not because you're evil, but because you're human. The paradox is that when you stop running from these darker impulses and begin to understand them, they lose their power. The unconscious ceases to be an enemy. It becomes a teacher. To face the shadow is to reclaim your lost energy, the life force trapped in denial. When you look deeply enough, you realize the monster isn't there to destroy you. It's there to wake you. Lesson 66. The integration of shadow. Darkness becomes wisdom when embraced, not feared. Most people try to kill their shadow, as if light can exist without dark. But Jung taught that wholeness comes not from perfection, but from integration. To integrate the shadow is to allow the unwanted parts of yourself to step into awareness, not to indulge them, but to understand them. Anger, for instance, isn't evil. Left unexamined, it becomes destruction. But when integrated, it transforms into strength, boundary, and self-respect. The same is true of envy, fear, or pride. When you trace their roots, they reveal unmet needs or forgotten wounds. Integration means holding paradox, being capable of both light and dark without collapsing into either. It's realizing you can be kind and selfish, strong and scared, noble and flawed, all at once. This maturity dissolves the need to pretend. In myth, integration is symbolized by the alchemical union of opposites, the merging of sun and moon, spirit and matter, heaven and hell. You don't become divine by rejecting the dark, but by uniting it with light. Only then can wisdom emerge, not the sterile wisdom of detachment, but the deep, lived wisdom born from having walked through your own fire. Lesson 67. The archetypal dance. Within you live countless ancient roles waiting to be known. Every culture throughout time has told the same stories. The hero, the mentor, the trickster, the mother, the warrior, the lover. These are not merely characters. They are archetypes, timeless patterns of human experience that dwell in all of us. The archetypes are like masks worn by the psyche. Sometimes the warrior steps forward. You fight for something you believe in. Sometimes the lover speaks. You soften and connect. The trickster plays when you need humor or rebellion. But when you suppress an archetype for too long, it becomes distorted. The neglected lover turns cold. The overused warrior becomes tyrannical. Self-knowledge means learning this dance, recognizing which archetype leads and which hides. Life calls each one forth in its own time. A complete person can shift gracefully among them, allowing every part to serve its rightful purpose. The poet Rilke once wrote, "You are not too old, and it is not too late, to dive into your increasing depths where life calmly gives out its own secret." Within those depths live these ancient energies, the collective memories of humanity itself. To meet them is to remember who you've always been. Lesson 68. The projection trap. We see in others what we refuse to see in ourselves. Projection is one of the unconscious mind's cleverest tricks. It's how we exile our own traits by assigning them to others. The people we despise most often mirror what we haven't yet made peace with inside ourselves. When you call someone arrogant, perhaps it's your own buried pride that's speaking. When you envy another's confidence, maybe it's your own unlived courage crying out. Even admiration can be projection. The hero you idolize often reflects the part of you that longs to rise. Projection distorts relationships and keeps us blind. But the moment you ask, "What in me is reacting?" the spell begins to break. You reclaim the qualities you've cast away. The work of integration demands compassion, not just for others, but for yourself. Because once you see that everyone is projecting their inner world onto the outer, judgment turns into understanding. The person you hate, the one you fear, the one you can't forgive, each is showing you something you've yet to integrate. The outer world is your mirror, and until you learn to see clearly, it will keep reflecting your unfinished lessons. Lesson 69. The Inner Child. Healing begins when innocence is allowed to return. Beneath every adult mask lies a child, playful, curious, sensitive, and easily wounded. The inner child is not a metaphor. It's the emotional imprint of your early experiences, still living within your nervous system. When that child was loved, it learned safety. When it was hurt, it learned defense. And those lessons echo for a lifetime. The adult who fears abandonment, who seeks validation, who overworks or overpleases, is often that same child, still longing for what it never received. Healing begins not by silencing this child, but by listening to it. Ask, what did you need that you didn't get? Perhaps it was protection, attention, or permission to express. As you offer that now, through patience, self-care, and forgiveness, the child begins to relax. When healed, the inner child returns with gifts, creativity, wonder, and presence. You laugh again without reason. You play. You feel awe. The modern world teaches us to grow up fast, to abandon softness for control. But true maturity includes childlike freedom. When the child within feels safe to exist, life regains its color. Lesson 70. The Hero's Descent. Every transformation begins with a descent into chaos. Campbell. Joseph Campbell described the hero's journey as a circle, and every circle begins with a fall. Before the hero slays the dragon or finds the treasure, they must descend into darkness. That descent isn't punishment, it's initiation. In myth, the hero enters the underworld, the unknown realm where their old identity dissolves. In life, this underworld might be grief, failure, heartbreak, or loss of direction. It's the space where everything familiar dies. You cannot transform without first descending. The descent strips you bare, confronts you with your shadow, and tests your courage to continue when everything collapses. The dragon guarding the treasure represents fear, the fear that keeps you small. But here's the paradox. The dragon is the treasure. What you most fear holds what you most need. Those who refuse the descent live in repetition. Those who accept it return changed, wiser, freer, whole. The journey through chaos is the soul's way of reordering itself. Destruction is not the opposite of creation, it's the space that allows it. Lesson 71. The Alchemy of Pain. Suffering can become gold when processed through understanding. Alchemy was never about turning lead into literal gold. It was about transforming the base matter of the human experience into spiritual light. Pain, in this sense, is the raw material. When you resist pain, it hardens. It festers into resentment or despair. But when you face it, breathe into it, and understand it, something miraculous happens. The pain begins to reveal its message. Perhaps loss teaches you impermanence. Betrayal teaches discernment. Loneliness teaches self-connection. In time, what once wounded you becomes the very thing that awakens you. Psychologically, this is called post-traumatic growth. Spiritually, it's called transmutation. The lead of suffering becomes the gold of awareness. The alchemist's furnace is your own heart. The fire that burns there doesn't destroy, it purifies. Every tear, every heartbreak, every collapse is refining you into something more luminous. It's not about glorifying suffering, but about recognizing its hidden intelligence. Pain is the soul's way of saying, pay attention, something in you is ready to evolve. Lesson 72. The Return Home. The hero's journey ends not in conquest, but in wholeness. After the descent, after the confrontation, after the transformation, the hero returns home. But home is no longer the same. Or perhaps, it was never the world that changed, it was the hero who did. In myth, this return symbolizes integration, bringing the wisdom of the underworld back to the surface, to live not as a warrior or savior, but as a whole being. Wholeness doesn't mean perfection. It means nothing is left out, not the light, not the dark, not the pain, not the joy. You no longer divide your experience into good or bad. You carry both as truth. The treasure you bring back is understanding that life's purpose isn't to escape the shadow, but to dance with it. The self you were before the journey was fragmented, seeking completion in external victories. The self that returns understands that the real victory was internal, the reconciliation of opposites. You begin to move through the world quietly, humbly, aware that every person you meet is on their own descent. You speak gently, love deeply, and judge less, because you've seen what darkness can do and how it can heal. The hero doesn't return to rule the kingdom. They return to serve it. And once you've faced your inner world, you begin to see the threads connecting all living things. Chapter 10. Lessons from Eastern Wisdom. The self is an illusion. Reality is one unbroken whole. Lesson 73. The Tao of Flow. To flow with life is to become life itself. Lao Tzu. Imagine a river, effortless, winding, patient. It doesn't resist the rocks in its path, it bends around them. It doesn't hurry to reach the ocean, it simply moves, moment by moment, in harmony with gravity and time. This is the Tao, the way. Lao Tzu wrote that those who fight against life tire quickly, but those who move with its rhythm find peace even in the storm. To flow is not to be passive. It's to act without friction, to trust the intelligence already woven into the universe. A tree doesn't need to force itself to grow. The sun doesn't need motivation to shine. When you stop trying to control everything, life begins to move through you as naturally as breath. This is the secret of effortless effort, Wu Wei. It means doing without forcing, speaking without arguing, striving without clinging to results. It is the art of being fully present in what is, without anxiety about what should be. When you are in the Tao, you don't swim against the current of existence. You become the current. You move as the universe moves, spontaneous, balanced, alive. Lesson 74. The Middle Path. Balance is found not in extremes, but in the quiet center. Buddha. The Buddha's life began in extremes, first in indulgence, then in self-denial. Only after nearly dying from starvation did he realize that both pleasure and pain can become prisons. The truth, he discovered, lies in the middle, the path between excess and deprivation, between attachment and aversion. The middle path is not moderation for its own sake. It's awareness, the wisdom to see how the pendulum of desire swings and how suffering arises when we chase its ends. You overindulge, and life becomes chaos. You suppress too much, and joy disappears. Balance is the quiet space between these opposites, where serenity resides. It's not about standing still, but about walking steadily. The middle path is a living balance, a dynamic alignment with reality as it unfolds. You eat when hungry, rest when tired, act when needed, release when done. In every decision, ask, am I being pulled by craving or by fear? The answer reveals whether you're on the path or drifting from it. To live the middle path is to discover that peace is not found in having everything or nothing, but in needing less and noticing more. Lesson 75. The Mirror of Mind. Your thoughts color the universe you perceive. The outer world is a reflection of the inner one. When your mind is restless, even silence feels noisy. When your heart is calm, even chaos becomes music. This is the mirror of mind, the recognition that perception creates experience. The mind does not see reality as it is. It filters, shapes, and paints it with emotion, belief, and expectation. Two people can look at the same sunset. One feels gratitude, another feels loss. The difference isn't in the sky, it's in the mind that sees it. Eastern wisdom reminds us that by polishing the mirror of awareness, we begin to see clearly. Meditation, mindfulness, and contemplation aren't ways to escape the world. They're ways to clean the glass through which you see it. When your thoughts settle, reality no longer feels distorted or hostile. The beauty that was always there begins to emerge. You realize that peace is not found by changing the world, but by understanding the one who sees it. In the stillness of a quiet mind, the universe stops being a projection and becomes a reflection, clear, infinite, and true. Lesson 76. The non-dual vision. There is no me or you, only the dance of existence. Advaita Vedanta. The ancient seers of India spoke of Advaita, non-duality, the understanding that the separation between self and world is an illusion. You are not a wave observing the ocean. You are the ocean, momentarily shaped as a wave. When the mind divides the world into this and that, it creates the illusion of duality, life and death, good and evil, self and other. But in truth, these are two sides of the same coin. One cannot exist without the other. Non-duality isn't a belief. It's a realization that dawns when the ego dissolves. When you look deeply enough, you find that the same awareness witnessing your thoughts is the same awareness animating every living being. You are the breath of the cosmos, the consciousness behind all eyes, the silence between all sounds. The dance you call life is not happening to you. It's happening as you. To see this truth is to be free. You stop clinging, stop comparing, stop defending the illusion of a separate self. What remains is peace, the kind that doesn't depend on anything because it was never apart from anything. Lesson 77. The still pond. When the mind is calm, reality reflects itself clearly. A disturbed mind is like a pond rippled by wind. Every wave distorts the reflection, turning the world into fragments of confusion. But when the wind subsides, the surface becomes still, and suddenly, everything becomes visible. Meditation is not about escaping thought. It's about calming the ripples. It's the art of resting awareness in itself, allowing thoughts to pass like clouds across an open sky. When stillness deepens, perception sharpens, colors brighten, time slows, and a quiet knowing arises from beneath the noise. The still pond is your true nature, untroubled, reflective, silent. Yet, most people mistake the ripples for themselves. They say, I am anxious, I am angry, I am sad, forgetting that the awareness observing these emotions is untouched by them. When you identify not with the ripples, but with the water itself, peace returns. You realize that even the waves are made of the same substance, consciousness. Calm or storm, the pond remains water. Calm or chaos, you remain awareness. In stillness, you no longer chase reflection, you become it. Lesson 78. The impermanence of form. All things arise, change, and dissolve. Buddhist anicca. Buddhism teaches anicca, impermanence, the simple yet profound truth that nothing in the universe stands still. Every thought, every moment, every life is in motion, passing from one form to another. We suffer because we resist this truth. We cling to what we love and reject what we fear, trying to freeze the river of time. But the moment you cling, the flow turns into struggle. Impermanence is not cruelty. It is compassion in disguise. It teaches appreciation. Without change, nothing could grow, heal, or begin again. A flower wilts so that another can bloom. Day fades so that night can rest the world. You breathe in, you breathe out, and in that cycle, everything is reborn. To meditate on impermanence is to fall in love with transience, to see beauty in the fleeting. The cherry blossom is beautiful because it doesn't last. The sunset moves us because it fades. When you accept impermanence, you stop asking the world to stay the same. You let it move, and you move with it. In that surrender, suffering becomes serenity. Lesson 79. The way of non-attachment. Possession breeds suffering. Letting go brings peace. To attach is to grasp, to hold tightly to things, people, or identities in the hope they'll give you stability. But the tighter you hold, the more you suffer, because all that you cling to is already changing. Non-attachment is not indifference. It's intimacy without clinging, love without control, joy without demand. It's the ability to hold everything and everyone lightly, knowing they are passing through your life, not belonging to it. The Buddha taught that attachment is the root of suffering because it binds you to illusion. When you release it, life doesn't become empty, it becomes vast. You no longer say mine or yours. You say this too. Letting go doesn't mean losing. It means seeing clearly that you never truly possessed anything. Not your past, not your identity, not even your next breath. And yet, this realization doesn't bring despair, it brings peace. Because when nothing is yours to lose, everything becomes a gift. Freedom is not found in owning, but in flowing, like air through open hands, like the wind through leaves. Lesson 80. The breath of infinity. In one breath, the whole cosmos moves. Inhale, exhale. The simplest act, yet the most profound. With every breath, you participate in the rhythm of the universe, a cycle that began billions of years ago when stars first forged the elements that would become your lungs. Breathing is the invisible bridge between body and spirit. It is the pulse of existence, connecting you to every living thing. The same air you draw in now once passed through forests, oceans, and other human beings long before you. When you breathe consciously, you begin to sense this unity. You are not an isolated organism. You are the universe inhaling itself, exhaling itself, endlessly recycling life. In Eastern meditation, breath is called prana or chi, the life force that animates all things. When your breath is shallow, your awareness narrows. When it deepens, your consciousness expands. Close your eyes and follow one breath from start to finish. Notice how it begins, rises, falls, and fades, just like every moment in existence. That single breath holds the wisdom of the cosmos, impermanence, unity, and renewal. And so, the breath is not merely survival, it's a prayer, a reminder that even now, the infinite lives and moves through you. And in realizing unity, compassion becomes no longer a choice, but a natural expression of being. Chapter 11. Lessons on Connection and Humanity. To understand another is to glimpse eternity. Lesson 81. The Mirror of Empathy. When you look into another's eyes, you are not just seeing a person, you are seeing yourself, reflected through a different story. Empathy is not about stepping into someone else's shoes. It's about realizing there was never a difference between your feet and theirs in the first place. Every joy you feel, every pain you hide, exists in another, somewhere, right now. The mother holding her child in silence. The stranger staring at a city skyline, wondering if they'll ever belong. The man in traffic, gripping the wheel not out of anger, but exhaustion. To feel empathy is to pierce the illusion of separateness. It's the mind whispering, you are not alone. Because at the deepest level, consciousness is not divided, it's mirrored. Every act of understanding ripples across that mirror, softening the edges between you and them. And that's the secret. Empathy is not weakness. It is the highest intelligence of the heart. The recognition that the boundaries we defend so fiercely are nothing but fog in the light of awareness. Lesson 82. The Fragility of Others. To love someone is to accept their impermanence. Everything you hold dear, every friendship, every shared laugh, every fleeting glance, is already slipping through time's fingers. But this isn't a tragedy. It's the very reason love matters. The beauty of life is magnified by its fragility. Like a sand mandala washed away by the tide, its impermanence gives it meaning. We suffer because we want things to last. Yet, what if the point of love was never to last, but to transform, to pass through you, leave its mark, and make you softer, wiser, more awake? When you hold someone, knowing they'll one day fade, your grip becomes gentler. You stop trying to own them and start honoring their presence. You realize love is not about possession, it's about reverence. Because when you truly see how fragile others are, you can no longer treat them carelessly. You start to handle every soul like sacred glass, luminous and temporary. Lesson 83. The Compassion Paradox. Here's the strange paradox. When you help others, you heal yourself. The world teaches us to chase fulfillment through self-gain, status, comfort, validation. But compassion flips the script. It reveals that the deepest nourishment comes not from taking, but from giving. When you lift someone out of despair, part of your own darkness lifts with them. When you forgive another, the chains binding you begin to fall away. When you listen, truly listen, to someone's pain without trying to fix it, your own heart becomes still. Compassion is not self-sacrifice, it's self-expansion. The boundaries of your identity dissolve with every act of kindness. And in that dissolution, you discover something remarkable. Your happiness was never personal. It was always shared. That's the paradox. By helping another, you return home to yourself. Lesson 84. The quiet service. Not all acts of kindness make noise. Some whisper softly, unseen, unnoticed, yet they shape the world in silence. It's easy to serve when others are watching, but true compassion lives in the quiet moments when no one ever will. The stranger who leaves food at a neighbor's door. The janitor who works past midnight to make mornings easier for others. The person who listens without judging, even when their own heart is tired. Quiet service is the purest form of love because it asks for nothing. It seeks no recognition, no applause, only the quiet satisfaction of having made existence lighter for another being. The ego feeds on acknowledgement, but the soul finds its nourishment in anonymity. When you serve without needing to be seen, the act itself becomes sacred. It becomes prayer, not spoken in temples, but written in gestures. Lesson 85. The shared suffering. Every pain in the world is connected. The grief of a mother in one corner of the earth echoes in the silence of a father thousands of miles away. The loneliness of one heart contributes to the heaviness of another's chest. When you choose compassion, you are not just comforting one person, you are easing the collective burden. Every act of kindness, every word of understanding, subtracts a fraction from the total weight of human sorrow. Suffering is the common language of all living things. But so is healing. You don't need to fix the world. You only need to tend to the part of it that's within your reach. Each moment you act with love, the world becomes infinitesimally lighter. Because compassion is not about ending all suffering. It's about refusing to let suffering win. Lesson 86. The language beyond words. Some truths can't be spoken. They can only be felt. A glance that says, I understand. A hand on a shoulder that says, you're not alone. A silence shared between two people that says, everything's okay. Words can only point toward connection. Silence completes it. The heart speaks in vibrations, through tone, through presence, through energy. Think of a child resting against their mother's chest. No language, no logic, just the rhythm of breath and heartbeat aligning. That is the purest form of communication, being fully present with another, without needing to say a thing. When you reach that depth of awareness, every encounter becomes sacred. You stop trying to impress or explain and start feeling the world instead. Because the most profound language is not made of letters, it's made of being. Lesson 87. The forgiveness release. Forgiveness is not about excusing what happened. It's about releasing the grip of what's still happening inside you. Resentment is a cage you build with your own thoughts, locking yourself in with the memory of pain. You replay the past, trying to punish the offender, not realizing you're punishing yourself instead. To forgive is not to forget, it's to finally stop bleeding. When you let go, you're not saying, it was okay. You're saying, I refuse to let this define me any longer. Forgiveness is freedom disguised as surrender. It doesn't erase the wound, it removes the poison. And here's the miracle. The moment you release another, the air inside your chest changes. The tension dissolves. The weight drops. You feel light again, not because the past vanished, but because it no longer owns you. Forgiveness is not a gift for the offender, it's a gift for the soul. Lesson 88. The humanity thread. If you were to zoom out far enough, you'd see that every human is just a node in a vast, glowing web of consciousness. Interconnected, interdependent, inseparable. You breathe the same air as every ancestor. The atoms in your blood once burned inside stars. The pain that breaks you has broken countless others before. And the love that heals you. It's the same force that has been moving through humanity since time began. You are not an isolated spark. You are a continuation, a single vibration in the symphony of existence. The tragedy is not that we forget others, it's that we forget we are others. That every act of cruelty toward another is, in truth, an act of self-harm on a larger scale. When you begin to see humanity as one body, compassion stops being a moral choice. It becomes instinct. You don't hesitate to help because you finally understand. It's all you. The humanity thread weaves through everyone, from the beggar to the king, from the child to the dying elder. And when you tug on it with love, the whole tapestry trembles gently in response. And when love becomes understanding, and understanding becomes peace, only one question remains. What is the nature of being itself? Chapter 12. Lessons on Existence and Eternity. We are temporary forms through which eternity experiences itself. Lesson 89. The Cosmic Breath. In the silence between stars, the universe inhales and exhales in cycles too vast for the human mind to fully grasp. Stars are born, burn with brilliance, collapse into themselves, and scatter their ashes across the cosmic sea. From that stardust, new worlds form, including ours. Every atom in your body, from the iron in your blood to the calcium in your bones, was once forged in the furnace of a dying star. You are literally the universe, remembering itself through human form. And just as stars die so others may be born, we too will return our borrowed matter back into the cycle. The breath that animates you will one day dissolve into the same invisible rhythm that moves galaxies. There is no final exhalation, only a continuation of the cosmic breath, moving endlessly between birth and dissolution, between form and formlessness. Lesson 90. The Echo of Being. Perhaps consciousness is not confined within the skull, but woven through the very structure of existence itself. Every thought, every emotion, every heartbeat is a ripple across an infinite ocean of awareness. The trees, the rivers, the stars, they do not merely exist around you. They participate in the same field of being that you do. You are not a spectator in the universe. You are a note in its eternal song. When you gaze at the night sky and feel a strange recognition, it's not imagination. It's memory. The cosmos is not something outside you. It's your oldest home, whispering through every atom. I am here too. Your consciousness is not separate from the universe. It is the universe, awakening to itself. The echo you hear in deep silence is the sound of infinity recognizing its own voice. Lesson 91. The Death Illusion. Death feels like an ending only to those who believe the self is limited to flesh. But energy does not vanish, it transforms. When a flame goes out, its light doesn't die. It simply merges with the greater radiance. The body falls away, but what you truly are, the silent observer behind all thoughts, remains untouched. Imagine a wave crashing upon the shore. It seems to disappear, yet the ocean never went anywhere. The wave was never separate. It was always the ocean expressing itself in temporary form. So too are we waves in the vast ocean of consciousness. Death is not the end of you. It is the moment the wave realizes it was water all along. Lesson 92. The Continuum of Energy. Einstein reminded us, nothing is ever lost, only changed in form. The universe operates like an eternal recycling system, transforming matter into energy, energy into matter endlessly. The food you eat becomes your body. Your breath becomes the air another creature inhales. The warmth from your skin dissipates into space, where it might one day help ignite another star. Every act of existence is a transaction of transformation. Nothing ever truly disappears, it only changes costume. Even your thoughts, the invisible currents of your inner world, carry energy that influences others in ways unseen. You are not a separate object drifting through time. You are a dynamic expression of a cosmic continuum, constantly shifting, yet never ceasing to be. Lesson 93. The Eternal Witness. Beneath every experience, joy, fear, thought, or dream, there is a silent presence watching. It does not change when your emotions do. It does not age when your body does. It does not come or go. That stillness behind perception, that awareness watching even your thoughts, is the eternal witness. You can notice it now. Pause. Watch the thoughts moving across your mind. Who is watching them? That you that notices the mind is not the mind itself. It existed before every story, every identity, every memory. It is untouched by birth or death. When the body dissolves, that witnessing presence remains, like a screen upon which countless lifetimes of consciousness are projected, never stained by what they display. You are that screen. You always have been. Lesson 94. The infinity within. We often look to the stars for signs of infinity, but the same vastness exists within. The human mind is a galaxy of thoughts, dreams, and possibilities, expanding without boundary. Close your eyes, and you'll see. Inside you are universes. Every heartbeat echoes the pulse of creation. Every thought is a nebula, forming and dissolving in the space of awareness. The macrocosm mirrors the microcosm. The infinite doesn't live only in the sky. It breathes in your chest, hums in your nerves, and waits in the silence between your thoughts. When you explore inward deeply enough, the boundaries between you and everything else disappear. What's left is pure being, infinite, timeless, awake. Lesson 95. The cycle of rebirth. Nothing truly ends. It only takes a new form. The seed dies into the soil so the tree can rise. The sun sets into night so the moon can awaken. The body returns to earth so new life can grow. Even within a single lifetime, rebirth happens continuously. Every morning is a small resurrection. Every moment you let go of the past, something new is born within you. The person you were yesterday no longer exists. You've been reborn countless times already, each breath erasing and recreating you. Rebirth is not only a cosmic law, it's an invitation to shed what no longer serves and to rise again, endlessly. Lesson 96. The still point. There exists a space beneath the noise of existence where time stands still. It's not found in distance, but in depth, in the quiet center of awareness where everything rests. When you enter deep silence, the rush of time slows. Thoughts fade. Identity dissolves. You feel the eternal rhythm pulsing beneath the chaos of life. This still point isn't something you must reach. It's always here. The mind obscures it with noise, but when the noise fades, the stillness reveals itself, infinite and unmoving. It's the same silence between musical notes that gives melody its meaning, the eternal pause that allows creation to unfold. When you touch that still point within, you realize eternity isn't in the future. It's now. It always was. Lesson 97. The paradox of being. Here's the greatest mystery. You are both the dream and the dreamer. Life appears as a grand illusion, a stage of forms, desires, and experiences. Yet behind it all, there's an intelligence orchestrating every movement, including your own. You are the actor and the scriptwriter, the observer and the observed. The universe plays every role through you, pretending to be separate for the joy of reunion. When you awaken to this, the boundaries of identity soften. You stop resisting life's flow because you see, you are the flow. The dream doesn't end when you wake up. It simply changes perspective. You realize that the dreamer and the dream were never apart. Lesson 98. The return to source. All rivers eventually return to the ocean, and all souls, in their own way, return to the source from which they came. Every desire, every journey, every lifetime is a loop leading back to origin, to the state of pure being, before names, stories, or forms. What you seek, love, peace, understanding, is not something to find out there. It's the essence of what you already are. Every path, every philosophy, every act of devotion is a gentle homecoming to that realization. The source was never lost. It's been whispering from within, waiting for you to remember. Lesson 99. The Great Surrender. Peace doesn't come from mastering life. It comes from yielding to it. The seeker's struggle ends when they stop searching for something to hold on to. The mind, in its effort to control, creates turbulence. The heart, in its willingness to let go, finds stillness. Surrender is not defeat. It's the deepest form of alignment. It's the realization that life is already flowing perfectly, even when it appears chaotic. When the river stops fighting its course, it merges with the ocean. When you stop resisting what is, you dissolve into peace itself. The seeker and the sought merge, and there is only silence, infinite and full. Lesson 100. The timeless lesson. In the end, all wisdom converges into a single truth. Just be. Not striving, not becoming, not seeking, simply being. All philosophies, all scriptures, all teachers have been pointing here, to the eternal presence within this very breath, to the stillness beneath all motion, to the awareness witnessing itself right now. Everything else, every fear, every question, every chase, is a ripple on the surface of that stillness. To just be is not passive. It is the purest act of participation in existence. It's the recognition that you were never separate, never incomplete, never lacking. You are not a fragment in time. You are the timeless itself, playing at being human. Good night.